Alright, so fighting games. A genre game that isn't really quite as popular as I wish it to be. It is a very good genre, and in my opinion, probably one of the better genres out there, period. And I'm going to come from you from a perspective from a person who used to not be a fighting game fan. I never really liked them. They were too hard. I sucked at them. Wasn't very good. But then that changed around when Dragon Ball Fighterz came out back in 2018. I became a pretty casual fighting game fan. Nothing too crazy. I kind of learned some of the lingo, but I'm not really that knee-deep in it as of now. I'm probably in the kiddie pool. I want to jump into the deep end of fighting games, however, it's a bit harder than one might think. And now I'm going to basically explain to you how I became a fighting game fan over the course of the last 4 years. And basically what happened was I've always wanted a game where I could play and I could feel like I'm doing something cool and rewarding and competitive, but at the same time, it makes me feel like, a shonen anime character. And there are some games that do that. We have games like the Dark Souls franchise, for example. Some anime games that come out like Scarlet Nexus or Code Vein or other hack and slash type of games. But none really did the job well except for fighting games. Now, fighting games were really good at doing this. They're very competitive, but they're also very casual friendly, especially as of nowadays. They're getting more and more casual friendly. I love competitive games. I played a lot of competitive FPSs back in the day, and I love also at the same time, whenever I lose in a game, it's usually through my mistake and just overall someone being better than me, because it leaves me with room to improve and grow. And with fighting games, there is a lot of that. You learn so much and you have to grow so much, like especially right now. Give an example I can give is I just bought Guilty Gear Strive. The game is about a year old now and I just bought it, just got into it because my flame for fighting games have been coming back recently and I really wanted to get into Strive. So I bought the game and I've been enjoying it. The idea of fighting games is really good. You go back and forth. It's like a tournament arc in an anime. When you're watching an anime, a shonen anime, and it's a tournament arc, and there's brackets, and they just one-on-one fights. That's how it feels, and it feels great when you are playing the game and like you understand the fundamentals. When you get into a fighting game, it can be really hard. So when you get in, you start, button mashing. You're like, okay, this is really confusing. It's all too hard. So you spend about an hour, 2 hours a day, maybe in training mode or just playing through player matches. And slowly over time, you get better. You're like, oh, when I click this thing, I can follow it up with this. Oh, when I do this hit, I can follow it up with this hit. And you overall start making combos more direct, easier, and more fluid. And I really like that. You should have really good self-improvement in fighting games, which you don't really have with any other sort of game. And it's just overall a really good experience. Now, as an anime fan, that's great. The only problem that fighting games have for us anime fans in general is we would like to play fighting games that have our favorite anime. Now, we do have a couple of good ones like Dragon Ball Fighterz, and we have Storm, and we have some games that flopped really badly, Jump Force, and majority of anime games, at least anime fighting games, are just a solid B- at best, except for Storm, Dragon Ball Fighterz, and probably Demon Slayer Hinokami Chronicles are one of the few I can think of that are based off an anime series that actually did well and are actually fundamentally good as fighting games. But the rest are kind of not that good. Like, I know you have Dragon Ball Raging Blast 2, Dragon Ball Budokai, Dragon Ball Xenoverse, cult classics, and just overall really good for cult classics and just really good for Dragon Ball fans and anime fans in general. But I'm sorry to burst your bubble to a lot of people. Fundamentally, as fighting games, they're just pretty okay, if not just outright bad, which isn't a bad thing at all. They're still fun and great games to play, but as a competitive fighter, they're not that amazing. However, there are fighting games that capture the essence of games that are based off of franchises already. You have games like Street Fighter, which is super over the top. The character designs are super outrageous and crazy and just exaggerated, which would feel like an anime. And it's really good fighting game in general, a really good fighting franchise. I know the last game, Street Fighter V, kind of flopped. However, Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition, which is a game that's pretty cheap because it's not new at all. It's around made in 2014, I'm pretty sure. And It's cheap, and I do think if you're getting the Street Fighter, you should check out that game, and then migrate to Street Fighter 5 and try it out for a little bit. But if you just want to wait for the new game that's coming out, Street Fighter 6, I don't blame you. It's coming out soon, next year in the summertime, and I do think it's going to finally take Street Fighter back to formula and be really, really good. But there is another game, actually a couple of games that I do want to talk about, which feel really good. First of all, like I mentioned earlier in the video, Guilty Gear Strive. Guilty Gear Strive is made by the same people who made Dragon Ball FighterZ, Arc Systems, and they, in my opinion, probably have the perfect formula for anime fighting games. You can probably, whenever you log on like Twitter, TikTok, or just overall on YouTube, if you're into like YouTubers who play anime fighting games, you've probably noticed that if they asked for a new fighting game to come out for an anime series, the two most popular right now are both Naruto for a new fighting game and Bleach for a new game in general. People want an Arc Systems fighting game. I've seen people throw out ideas for a like Naruto Fighterz and a Bleach Fighterz, and in fact there was a leak a while back actually that rumored that Arc Systems was working on a My Hero like sort of fighting game, and that turned out to not be true, and it's unfortunate, but they have the formula down. Guilty Gear Strive is a really good game. Over the top, the designs are actually pretty good in my opinion, and it doesn't play the same as Fighterz, so if you are a fan of Dragon Ball FighterZ, casual or just a really big fan, it plays similar enough, but not too crazy. It plays more like a traditional fighting game. Now, I've never played any of the Guilty Gears before Strive, so it probably does play like past Guilty Gear games. However, it's not that hard to learn the basics. Now, I do specify and put emphasis on the basics because the game does have a really big learning curve. As a person who's getting into it, the gap between me and some of my friends and people that I know is massive. They're way better than I am, but I will get there eventually. Now, in fighting games, contrary to popular belief, usually when you lose, it's because of you. I know I've talked to some people who were fans of Dragon Ball FighterZ, but they thought, oh, no, this character's busted and this character's busted, this character's busted. That usually is never really the case. That usually was not really the case in FighterZ from the way I could see it. There were a couple times when a new DLC character came out and they were kind of good, but over time people found a way. People were like, oh, they're not too crazy, they're not too busted. However, there was one. People automatically are going to assume, oh, it was Ultra Instinct Goku. He came out, he had dodge, he had cancels, he had command grabs, he had the flippity dips. But no, it wasn't actually Ultra Instinct Goku, and it was the most recent DLC character, Android 21. Now, she has been nerfed as of this video. Actually, way before this video, it was about a month ago now. She was nerfed, and thankfully she was. I'm on my hands and knees praying, congratulating Arc Systems for thankfully nerfing her, because she was so busted that she was basically tier 0, and she was undisputed queen of the game, but they nerfed her, and it's thankful they did because she even was banned in some tournaments. But enough about FighterZ. I want to talk about some fighting games that I do feel like new players would enjoy, casual people. Now, like I've already mentioned before, FighterZ is a really good one. It's really easy to get into, probably a really, really good casual game with a very big learning curve that you can get deep into, but overall it's really, really nice. Another one is Guilty Gear Strive. I'm getting into it, and I do think it's really fun, but it's probably more complex than FighterZ right now, in my opinion, but I do think it's really worth looking into and getting good at. And another fighting game that I do think would be Street Fighter, like I've already mentioned before. Mortal Kombat's a really another good one. Now, I haven't played these games, but I've heard from some people that are good, and they do look fun. But we have DNF Duel, which is made by Arc System Works. You have Persona 4 Arena. You have Tekken 7, which I think it's getting a little bit of resurgence because I've been getting it on my YouTube recommended more and more. You have just some fighting games that are just starting to pop out more and more. More people are starting to discover them. and I think now is the perfect time to step foot in it, because we just recently got a fighting game, and it's multiverses, and it's kind of put limelight that fighting games needed. It kind of brought it to the forefront, a free fighting game that's good enough for people to play. And I do think people need to play this game and realize fighting games are actually fun, and branch off into other fighting games, find their footing, find the one they like. And for us anime fans and the anime audience, I do think Dragon Ball Fighterz, Strive, Tekken, Street Fighter, DNF Duel, these games are super good because they make us want to continue playing the game, very competitive, and usually when you lose, it's because something you did. You don't really feel cheated anymore nowadays because of the fact that we can update the games, we can fix the characters that are broken and stuff like that, so majority of the time it is balanced. Fighting games back in the day never really got updated, so when a DLC character came out or base roster character was just overpowered, and it's really unfortunate that that used to happen, and that is probably the reason why a lot of people didn't like fighting games, because they felt cheated. Nowadays you don't really get cheated anymore because of characters getting fixed really quickly. And it is, again, in my humble opinion, that if you lose, it's more of your fault than anything. And I think that's really great with fighting games, and I do really wish they could branch out. If you're wondering, yeah, this is the end of the video. I don't really have a lot to say. I just think that if you're an anime fan, you need to check these games out. They're very worth your time. However, I will preference that getting into fighting games can take a good while. It's an experience. It's not something you just jump into and expect to be amazing at. It's a learning experience, a learning curve. It's like learning a new skill, and I think that people need to realize that when fighting games, when you hop in, especially so late in the game, with a lot of these fighting games that I've listed off here, you are going to be at a disadvantage compared to other players. You're going to be new. You're not going to know what to do. You're going to need to figure it out. And I think that is very daunting for some people. You see that, oh, this guy's so good at the game. I wish I could be like that. You hop in the training and you're nothing like that. That's fine. Before you start a fighting game, any fighting game, look up videos, look at the roster, pick a character. Now, picking a character is easy. Super easy. Pick the one that looks coolest to you. That's it. That's it. That's all you need to do. Sometimes that doesn't always work, and sometimes you do just need to fill out the characters, because that's what happened to me in Strive. I picked the character that looked the coolest, and I didn't really like them. Sometimes you do need to work the characters a little bit and test them out, but the majority of the time, it is based off who you think is the coolest. And that's simple, but the hard part then comes in. You need to watch probably a lot of YouTube videos and just practice a lot to get better, and I think that's where a lot of people don't really like. But I think it's worth your time, and I do think it's worth your effort, and it's a journey. It really is. And that's all I gotta say for this video. If you like what you saw, please go down below, like, comment, and subscribe. And comment down below as well if you're thinking about getting in the fighting games because of this video. I hope I can get my points across that you really need to try fighting games, and it's just an experience and a journey. Alright, so now that the video is over, I do think y'all should... I do kind of wish I could make this video better, but it's not. It's unfortunate. But point is, the last message of this video is I'm thinking about starting a separate YouTube channel. I know I don't already post consistently enough on here, and I'm going to be working on that. But this is for Twitch highlights and stuff like that, because I'm thinking about starting a Twitch and live streaming my experience of going through fighting games and going through games overall in general. And I think if you want to see that, go subscribe. My Twitch link will be down in the description. Streaming won't start for probably another week or two because I'm working through some stuff, getting some stuff, but it will start, and I will be live streaming my experience through all these things. So see ya.